We were beginning the 15th chapter, the last part of the book. We only have that much of the book left. Let's dive right into it. May this reading relax your mind and awaken your heart. One morning, as I was unpacking a box of used books, I discovered a paperback jammed in between Margaret Atwood and Ayn Rand. Panchadashi, by 14th century author Sri Vidyaranya Swami. I scanned the English translation and commentary. Both seemed straightforward. "Can we study this text?" I asked Miss Nandi, my Sanskrit teacher, and the person who was letting me stay at Om Depot, the bookstore. "Why not?" she said. Panchadashi comprised 15 chapters divided into 3 sections: discrimination between the real and unreal, the nature of the self as that supreme reality, and the blissful nature of that supreme reality. The teaching method was reasoning illustrated by metaphor. Just as colorful scenes painted on a white canvas depict people, animals, trees, and mountains, so also the world we experience is superimposed on the conscious self. When I say, "This is that same Devadatta I met 10 years ago," there is no mistaking Devadatta's identity. I negate time and place and refer to Devadatta as himself. Similarly, the individual that I am at present, of a certain age, height, gender, is negated to reach my true self. That self is present in all 3 states of my experience: waking, dreaming, and deep sleep, and does not change when my body, mind, and senses change. As the anvil in a blacksmith's shop beats iron into shapes, but does not change the iron itself, the self remains the immutable witness to changes in the body, senses, and mind. The self is not only existence and consciousness, but is bliss itself. I mistake the space contained in a room as the vastness of space. I mistake my reflection in a mirror as my true self. Existence, consciousness, and bliss are not qualities of my true nature, but are my true nature and identical with that supreme consciousness, called in Sanskrit Brahman. These are all quotes from this text hundreds of years ago. The text turns its attention to the Mahavakyas, or great statements sprinkled throughout the Upanishads, ancient scriptures that bluntly and baldly state the identity of the individual consciousness, termed Atman, with universal consciousness, Brahman. 4 of the Mahavakyas are the most popular. Prajnanam Brahma, the highest wisdom is Brahman. Tattvam Asi, thou art that. Ayam Atma Brahma, this self is Brahman. And Aham Brahmasmi, I am Brahman. For his analysis, the author, Vidyaranya, tackles the statement Tattvam Asi, thou art that, from the Chandogya Upanishad. Tattvam Asi, thou art that, boldly asserts that you, Tvam, individual consciousness, Atman, are none other than all-pervasive consciousness. Tat, Brahman. How is that possible? You will become old and die, but Brahman is eternal. That is all-powerful consciousness. You are the jiva, the humble individual. What type of sentence does Tadatmanada represent? One type of sentence is composed of words that have different meanings, like the book is on the table. One cannot say the book is the table. No, Tadatmanada, thou art that, is not such a sentence. Could it be a sentence where two words mean the same thing, like Rama is God? How could this be? The jiva, the individual, is not an iota like Brahman. No, this sentence is not like that. Is the sentence like the term blue lotus, where blue is an adjective qualifying a lotus? Is the individual an adjective that qualifies Brahman? Not at all. This is not a sentence like that. Vidyaranya then resorts to indirect meanings and implied meanings of sentences. If we say, the white runs, while watching a horse race, we imply a white horse runs. The word horse is implied. Is something implied in Tadatmanada that must be added? No, it is not a sentence like that. Because if you add something to the individual to make her divine, the existing non-divine attributes of the individual are retained. Or we can have a sentence. The house is on the river. What is implied is that the river is on the bank of the river nearby, not directly on the river. No, that is not the implied meaning of the Mahavakya that unequivocally states that the individual is divine and not merely close to the divine. What we must do, says the author, is remove a part of either side of the equation and leave a part. If one says, I ate a mango, the implication is that the skin and seed were not eaten. The skin and seed were removed and the fleshy part of the mango eaten. When I introduced a friend saying, this is that Devadatta you met 20 years ago, it is understood that this Devadatta, who is bald, plump, and old, is the same Devadatta who was skinny, young, and with a full head of black hair 20 years ago. The term Upadhi is used to collectively represent whatever changes. Young to old, skinny to fat, Upadhi gives rise to an appearance that is misunderstood. The great statement, Tadatmanada, thou art that, can thus be understood as follows. Individual consciousness. Atman plus Upadhi, tall, clever, old, sad, rich, equals Brahman plus Upadhi, the manifest universe. Remove the Upadhi, the limiting adjunct, from both sides. Individual consciousness, Atman, without Upadhi, is existence, consciousness, eternal. Universal consciousness, Brahman, without Upadhi, is existence, consciousness, eternal. Thus, individual consciousness, Atman, equals universal consciousness, Brahman. There is only consciousness. A brass bowl filled with marigolds and a small round brass gong were added to the Om Depot altar. Miss Nandi chose a marigold and held it up. Do you see the color of this flower? Orange. Do you see its semi-spherical shape? Yes. take away the color and shape, there is no object called flower apart from your seeing the orange color and shape. Close your eyes, the orange color and shape have disappeared, but your experience continues. There is no seeing, but are you aware? Your seeing is nothing apart from your awareness. Blank out awareness. Is there any seeing? No. In your experience, there is no object called flower apart from color and shape. There is no color and shape apart from seeing. There is no seeing apart from awareness. Is that not so? She struck the gong and substituted the experience of hearing for seeing. Are these exercises a type of meditation? I asked. No, she said. They are pointers, pointing you in the direction of awareness. Do you remember the story of the 10th boy? How could I forget? I said. When the leader of the boys counts, he looks for objects and sees 9 boys. 9 objects are out there for counting, so the 10th should also be out there. The 10th is not out there, so he must have drowned, the leader deduces. The existence of the 10th boy is hidden because of ignorance, mistakenly. With knowledge, ignorance is dispelled, and the boy says, I am the 10th. Pardon me. Awareness can never be hidden because it is not an object. Awareness, limitless, vast, eternal, bliss, non-dual, in which your body, mind, senses, the universe are appearances that come and go. That's the end of this chapter, but not the end of our reading, for there is another layer of the story that takes place at the level of the divine. Sid, who is Shiva, and Miss Nandi, who is Shiva's bull, were comfortably seated in a booth at the new cafe around the corner of Om Depot, trying out various coffee concoctions. The demons are still making their move, Sid said. You know I am doing my best, Miss Nandi responded bleakly. Brave of you to take up Panchadashi and its equations, Sid said, to cheer her up. She picked it herself. She needs logic, proof, equations. Poetry and revelations are of no use, and, as you know, arithmetic is not my strong point. You mean algebra? Logic and skepticism are hallmarks of where she comes from. Where roads are laid out in rectangles, Miss Nandi observed. A grid, they call it. I've never understood the concept. What is the point of a straight road? Miss Nandi tested her foamy latte. Delicious. By the way, she's taken to singing, she said. While she was scrubbing the bathroom floor, I heard an excellent exposition of the Hamsadvani Raga. And why wouldn't she? She's learning from the best, he said. Sid was referring to the blind beggar who had taken a position on the footpath outside, who was secretly none other than Narada, the cosmic musician, who could not stay away when anything interesting was about to happen. It's very true. Almost every mythology in India, Narada shows up whenever something interesting happens. She wanted to bring Narada into the shop, and I would not allow it. He was very dirty, with oozing sores on his feet. So she took a bucket of hot water outside and washed his filthy feet on the pavement. Then she rubbed some ointment on the sores with bare hands. Compassion, another hallmark of where she comes from. And meditation? Sid asked. Any progress? No, not yet. She has been hurt too deeply. She is cheerful during the day, but weeps at night, quietly, sometimes in her sleep. Surely I can't force her to meditate. I've given her pointers. Shouldn't she ask for instruction? I mean actual... The demons are taking control, Sid interrupted, carelessly, indifferently. But Miss Nandi was sensitive to the edge of anger in his tone. Maybe I can suggest that simple technique that uses samasas, compounds, she said quickly. She likes grammar. He looked around for the boy to bring her another scrumptious latte, this time with chocolate shavings. When she turned around, Sid had disappeared. Om Namah Shivaya, she sighed, beckoned to the boy, and grudgingly paid the bill. She wondered, and not for the first time, how the Lord of the Cosmos never had any change on him, not even for a tip. That concludes our reading for today. That's got to be one of my favorite chapters so far. I love the compassion and playful insights. If you have any final thoughts, do share them with me. I love how so much drama is broken up by so much wisdom. Thank you for listening.